would like to welcome you tonight and glad you're back again. How many of you are here for the first time? Just one, and the rest of you are returning. We're glad to have you and glad to have all of you back again. And I'd like to start with prayer tonight. Let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, we thank you so much that you give us such good foods. And I thank you for the fellowship that we have here, for the encouragement from each other. And I pray that you will be in our class tonight. And I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Tonight our video begins with Vicki, who you saw interviewing Dr. Neblett. Vicki and her son are on a picnic. Her son's name is Anthony. And then there's a little segment called Winner's Words. And then Harry Rogers tells his story. Well, he's right at the beginning too. He's had many health issues, and he decided to treat his illness in an unconventional way. So I'd like you to listen to this, and then we'll have some discussion afterwards.
And people ask me, is there side effects with following a natural diet? You bet there is. There's all kinds of side effects. I feel better, I feel younger, I'm happier. I just have a better outlook on life.
After hearing this program, do you feel like you have to hide when it's time for sweets? You don't have to do that. I love picnics, I love good healthy food, and I enjoy sweets too. But now that I've incorporated healthy food into my diet, sweets no longer control me. I control my sweet intake. And I make sure I have healthy sweets instead of just eating anything that I come across anytime I want it. It used to be that I would have Christmas for breakfast, Thanksgiving for lunch, 4th of July for dinner, and Easter before I went to bed. And it was just too much. There were plenty of fireworks going on, but not the kind you like. But now that my body is in balance from eating wholesome foods like the fresh grains, and we have a haystack here today with organic chips and some beans and tofu mayonnaise and fresh onions and avocado, olives and fresh carrots. It's absolutely delicious. And I no longer have those cravings for huge amounts of sweet and fatty foods that are not good for my mind or my body. Oh, do I enjoy sweets? Sure, but in moderation and the right kinds. Like these haystack cookies from our MAGA book, Diet and Stress, Simple Solutions. It's loaded with good advice and good tips that will help sweeten up your life naturally.
Want some?
I think I'll take 2.
All right.
Do you like a mask?
It's okay, I'll pass.
Stay with us.
It takes work to be a winner, discipline, changes, but the rewards are fantastic. Meet some winners who changed their lifestyle. Listen closely to their winners' words.
As a successful building contractor in Michigan, Harry Rogers had it all. He and his wife Ingrid were living the good life until Harry got some bad news.
About 4 or 5 years ago, I've been generally taking yearly physicals. And I noticed that I was kind of slowing down and sometimes getting discouraged with the job. And I went in for the physical in 2000, and they did the test, and the doctor sent me the results. And he says, your cholesterol is 242, and your triglycerides are 380. That's way out of line. And you need to get on a regimen of exercise. Well, he told me the year before the same thing when I had a 235 cholesterol. But I didn't take him seriously. So I said, well, okay. He says, I think you should take some kind of medication that would take down your high cholesterol so it doesn't affect your heart, your problems. You could have a heart attack. So I said, I don't know if my wife will go for that. She generally likes a natural basis. I'll let you know.
I'm a person that doesn't like drugs. I don't even like to take an aspirin. So I didn't like the idea of him having to be on drugs for the rest of his life. So I says, let's try this and see if we can't bring it down naturally.
Ingrid and Harry decided to eliminate all animal products and junk food and get regular exercise for 1 month before his follow-up doctor's appointment.
So I went back in 4 weeks, and by the end of this time, I was feeling great. I was not only walking 4 miles, I would jog in between, and I felt really pumped every morning. And so I went in and took the test, and then I got a letter about a week later saying, congratulations, your triglycerides were 380, and now they're down to 126. And your cholesterol was 242, and now it's down to 151. That is really great. I bet that medication is really working.
Besides lowering his cholesterol and triglycerides, what else did Harry's new lifestyle do for him?
And I just felt pumped, and the people at work noticed, you know, he's happier. He doesn't get discouraged.
Even on the job, when other people are discouraged and are uptight, and he'll be able to laugh it off and be able to bring them back to reality, and so that everybody is more happier on the job.
As I'm thinking about how it was before and how it is now, a drastic change. I'd take a long time contemplating things and trying to figure out things. Now then, I can think about it quickly, make a decision, and move forward with it and feel comfortable with it. Before my day, I get up, eat breakfast, drive off to work, start planning late, and play catch-up all day. Then, since I went on the regiment of a healthful diet and exercise and devotions in the morning, I thought I wouldn't have time for it. But as I look back, I have more free time during the day now, even though I take that segment out in the morning. I'm more relaxed, and the day goes faster. It's not a drag.
What would Harry say today to someone who said his cholesterol drop was just a fluke?
As I look back on the history, the year before it was 235, and the year after that was 242, and I felt more sluggish. And as I started the exercise program, I could tell that I just couldn't exercise as fast. At first, I just walked 2 miles a day. But in a week's time, I was able to do 4 miles a day. By the third week, I was jogging half the time and feeling great. I really felt pumped at that time. I'm thinking to myself, I feel younger. I feel happier. Why haven't I been doing this before? Here I've been just dragging around. In 4 weeks, we brought it down. And it's not a fluke. And we can go back there. If I went back to the old lifestyle, I can bring it right back up again.
Oh, once you learn how to do it, it becomes a lifestyle, and you don't even know how to cook the other way anymore.
If we keep our bodies fit, we can think better, act better, and react better under stressful situations.
But wouldn't just taking some drugs have done the same thing?
I don't know if the drugs would change your mood. I mean, yeah, they can give you drugs. I know a person who's a depressed person, and she eats pills all day long, but she's still moody. I think if you try this diet and this exercise program, this will far surpass drugs and coping with problems. Once you develop a relationship with Jesus Christ, then your mood will surely change. It's through your relationship with Christ, through the foods you eat, and the exercises that you do.
At first it was quite a bit of work because I had to find recipes that were good recipes, that were tasting good, that we wanted to eat. And so I started looking through magazines and books and finding good recipes to fix so that we could enjoy the food.
I'd like to sit here and tell you that I'm really a strong, strong person, and it's only people like me that can do this. But as you think about the willpower that it takes to get up in the morning, imagine getting up every morning, dragging out of bed, and just feeling terrible. That takes a lot of willpower. But if you follow this good diet, and you look at the benefits, I mean, getting up quickly, going for a walk in the woods, enjoying God's nature, breathing in that fresh air. Oh, yes, it takes willpower. At first, yes, at first it will take some willpower. Afterwards, then you'll see the benefits, and then the willpower is easier.
Did Harry experience any side effects?
And people ask me, is there side effects with following a natural diet? You bet there is. There's all kinds of side effects. I feel better, I feel younger, I'm happier. I just have a better outlook on life. As I look back at the program and realize that the food you eat does make a difference, the lifestyle you live does make a difference. My mood, I wasn't discouraged. I was happy and more fun to be around. And I could think on the spot much faster and able to compute numbers and tell the guys the rafter sizes or the changes we're making in the house. I could visualize what we're going to need to be building. I'd have to draw it on paper so the other people could understand it. But on this lifestyle, I'm more full of life. I wake up early and I'm happy.
I've often been surprised at how quick Harry can think.
People say, you know, what you eat doesn't really affect how you think. Huh, that's because they haven't tried the program. Once you've tried the program for at least 6 weeks, you will realize what you eat does affect how you think. It's like telling a drunk that what you drink doesn't affect your thinking at all. Would you believe that? What you eat does affect how you think and how you behave and how you react to life situations.
The only thing he will not tolerate is if the food is burned. And so I try not to burn the food.
God's plan of recreation can start right here. God's plan of rejuvenation of your mind, bringing it back to what He intended it to be a long time ago, can start the process right now by following His plan. Exercise, drinking water, good food, and worship with Him, devotion with Him, fellowship with Him every day.
Harry and Ingrid Rogers are winners. Winners who have experienced firsthand that when it comes to handling life's stresses and having a better mood, lifestyle matters.
So you're saying that eating a salad can help with stress?
Well, it's not my invention, but there are studies coming out which make it very clear that when we have higher blood levels or serum levels of certain nutrients, our stress levels are going to be lowered.
Today's question is, what types of food do you eat when you feel stressed?
You know, cookies, cakes, things of that nature. Everything that's not good for me, and a lot of it.
Usually ice cream and ice cream, actually.
What do I eat when I feel stressed? Wow. What don't I eat when I feel stressed?
Sweets.
I usually eat some sweets. Sweets usually settles my nerves a little. Or drink me a Diet Pepsi. That's another thing that I do.
Chips and everything. If I have a pop, I drink pop or anything liquid to get me relaxed.
I don't eat when I'm stressed out. Can't handle it.
Whatever I can find.
Fruits.
Chocolate.
Drink more things like pop because I try not to eat fatty things. and cookies.
I guess whatever is there, whatever is easiest.
Candy and stuff like that, like M&Ms.
Tonight we're happy to have Maria Roybal Hazen, who is going to share with us too. And it's going to take me just a minute to set up her PowerPoint presentation, but I'll let you get started, or you're going to do it.
These chemicals in other ways. So the epinephrine, norepinephrine is going there. Our heart is pumping, but we're not dissipating that high blood pressure because we're not running, we're not moving, we're not contracting our calf muscles to pump that blood faster. It's just getting us all set up for it, and we're not doing it. We're not metabolizing quickly the catecholamines that are in our body. These are chemicals that our body produces to cause the vasoconstriction, to raise the blood pressure, all of those things. But when we're not utilizing it, we're just there, a little bomb, ready to, go, but we're not going. So that is stress. So what happens is, well, the pump is going faster, but the blood isn't moving any faster. Our bodies aren't really working any faster. So the blood pressure is just there like on our tissues, whether it be the retinas of our eyes, our kidneys, our liver, whatever, those tissues, but they're not working any faster. So our body is just being beat upon by our own system. So we're wearing away sooner. That is stress. So how do you recognize that stress? What do you feel? What do we feel when we have that kind of stress? Fatigued, just lacking in energy, fatigued, tired, having a hard time to concentrate. What? Brain fog. It's just I can't remember. Where did I do it? Where is it? We can't concentrate. We can't focus. We're fatigued. We're depressed. Yes. Well, when blood thickens, we have more platelets, we have less lymphatic fluid, we have less fluid in our blood. It's literally thicker, we have less laminar flow, and the heart has to work harder. All of that becomes a mess. But what we feel is we feel fatigued. We feel there's not enough time in the day. We feel we don't have enough strength. We get headaches. And then we just give up. We just like, it's just so much to cope with. And we feel depressed. That's how these foods, well, let's look specifically a little bit at these foods. These are some of the foods, believe it or not, that cause a lot of stress. They still look pretty junky, like junk food. Who doesn't want to eat a popsicle in the middle of the summer just to freshen up, just to refresh ourselves? Who isn't gonna, eat a soft drink with your meal? Just one, or maybe, Maybe some sugar with the tea or with the coffee or with the lemonade. Or, maybe a pumpkin pie. That one's the healthy one, right? The pumpkin pie. Maybe the others have more sugar, and we tend to think that the pumpkin pie doesn't have as much. Well, just excess of food to begin with is a stressor on our body, because it has to metabolize, it has to break down all that sugar, which we'll talk about it in a little bit. And some of these may have caffeine. Well, should we avoid them totally? Yeah, no. You have no way we're going to avoid them totally. But how do we juggle them, and how do we choose? And when do we have them? And what do they do to us? Well, let's talk about carbohydrates, because all of the foods that I just showed you a moment ago are sugars. But they are simple sugars. And there are two kinds of sugars: complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates, or simple sugars and complex sugars. And the ones that we just saw are all simple sugars. Well, what do the complex ones look like? Maybe we don't want complex ones. That sounds too complicated. Maybe it's harder for the body. What are complex sugars? Does anybody know? Does anybody have a clue? Yes. Fruits, natural what? Okay, fruits have natural sugars in them. What else is a complex carbohydrate? Bigger molecules. Big complex carbohydrates are bigger molecules. Yes? Okay. Right. So let's define these complex sugars. Carbohydrates. And why we should seek them. The complex carbohydrates, as Pete Christoph said, are bigger molecules. They are composed of longer chains of glucose units. Well, you know how it is when the train gets very, very long and you're waiting there. Well, it just takes time. Likewise, it takes longer to break down a complex sugar. And what that does is that in the meantime, while the body is working to break it down, we're not being hungry. So the longer metabolism, the longer breakdown of sugars makes us feel satisfied. But in addition to that, in addition to keeping us from getting hungry quickly, is that complex carbohydrates do provide vitamins. They provide minerals, and they provide fiber. And the minerals and the vitamins are just the things that we need to have all the reactions in our body take place that we do. For example, this finger. Sometimes we have to lift a finger, but just bending our finger, just back and forth. It's causing muscles. Muscles are like little feathers with little spicules, and they engage like this. And when they engage, then they pull, they shorten, and so we can contract that muscle. But as surely as they engage like this, they have to let go and relax. And that takes energy and minerals and vitamins for that process to take place. So even though we may have the sugar to have the ATP, the glucose, for the body to function, we may not have the vitamins and the minerals to help those processes take place. Foods such as breads, legumes, rice, pasta, starchy vegetables like potatoes, carrots, and these contain complex carbohydrates. Now let's look at the other. I skipped one. Complex carbohydrates is, like the lady in the back also said, fruits. But fruits and vegetables as well give us a low amount of calories, a lot of vitamins and minerals, and the complex sugar, a long complex sugar that needs to be broken down. Let's look at the complex sugar. A complex carbohydrate consists, and there they are, long chains of glucose units. You've seen advertised, or probably you've heard about, medications that you can take that are slow release. Sometimes people take decongestants, cough suppressants, and you get these, 1 capsule or 2, 24-hour release, and you don't have to take as many medications because your body will work on it slowly, but it will release a little bit at a time. And that's what the body does to these complex natural sugars. Isn't that neat? Long before the pharmaceutical companies came along, God came up with slow release energy from the complex sugars. Well, that means that we're going to be able to go for a long time before we are hungry again and need to eat. And the metabolism of these kind of carbohydrates will increase the release of serotonin. Does anybody know what serotonin does to the body? It is your very own natural free Prozac. Prozac is a mood enhancer that many people around the world take by prescription just to feel good, just to get going in the day, just to be a little happier. But our bodies secrete that, and it's enhanced when we are digesting these complex carbohydrates. And we have satiety. That means, we don't get hungry as quickly. Just a little bit about the carbohydrate metabolism, just because, it's very simple, but, there might be some health-oriented or chemists here. Glucose is what we need to make ATP. It comes in sugars, complex sugars. Glycogen is what comes out of animals. For example, the gelatin that you make gelatin with, Knox gelatin, that comes out of the chicken's cartilage and gelatin. And also starch. Those are complex sugars. And they're big, long, complex chains. Compound sugars, like sucrose or fructose, many of the drinks for runners, for advertised for quick energy, are compound sugars. That means that they are smaller units and they will go quickly into the bloodstream, so you will get a quick surge of energy. That's why runners use them. And then the simple sugars like glucose. When people are on an IV fluid and they need, they're not eating, they'll have an IV and it's glucose and it's going straight into the bloodstream, ready to be used. So our body does better by taking these. If you eat an orange, it'll take the orange juice out of it. All juices are in the fructose. So if there are sometimes you need a quick pickup, drink a juice. It'll do you more good than eating the candy bar. The simple carbohydrates, the downside of simple carbohydrates, yes, they are shorter sugar units. They get digested very quickly. They enter the blood quickly. You need some more again. They do have a lot of calories, but you need more again. And because that sugar is in there immediately, it does promote the resistance of insulin. And there are many diabetics walking around that don't know that they are diabetics because it hasn't kicked in. and they can be controlled very, very well with a diet. And and they'll never know or experience any of the effects of diabetes. But if they are constantly eating simple sugars, it will promote the resistance of insulin, and then they will know that they do indeed have diabetes. The simple sugars increase tension and fatigue because they add to the stress. You were talking about your blood thickening. It not only thickens, 1 teaspoon of sugar reduces your white blood count by 10%. You just killed 10 white blood cells out of 100. The white blood cells are the ones that fight disease. So, if it's a 20-ounce drink, not just 12, if it's 20 ounce, it'll have a lot more. But these drinks not only have sugar, they also have caffeine. And many, many people are addicted to caffeine. And here's the caffeine cycle. People get up in the morning and have a cup of coffee in order to get going because they're tired. They can't make it. And then around the middle of the day, they need something to pick them up, so they'll have a soda. And finally, when they got going, well, it's time to go to bed, but they can't go to sleep. And so through the night, they toss and turn, or even if they zonk out, the body, the muscles, don't let go. They don't relax. So in the morning, how do they feel? They got to have that coffee to get going again. So it repeats over and over. How do you know if you're addicted to caffeine? Let me just back up. Cortisol is increased with caffeine. It shrinks up your blood vessels, shoots up the blood pressure. You can't relax your muscles. How do you know if you're addicted to caffeine? Just try leaving it. You get headaches, you're fatigued, you're depressed, you're jittery, your muscles jittery, you're addicted to caffeine. How to get rid of that? How to let go? Flush your system. Drink 6 to 12 cups of water. Go to bed early. And take a 10-minute walk. When you're tired, produce your own endorphins and encaphains, your own Prozac, to have your own natural mood high and energy. Go for a 10-minute walk. Increase the fruits and vegetables in your diet that will give you the minerals, that will give you the vitamins, that will give you the complex sugars to digest, and that will give you the fiber. And don't forget to go on a walk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hazen, for sharing with us about sugar. Probably won't drink another can of soda without thinking of all that sugar in a glass now, will we? I'd like to just, before we have our groups, I'd like to just talk to you a little bit about what's ahead. Next week, we're going to be talking about fats and also about some more about simple sugars and complex sugars. And someone, on the video they showed the haystack cookies. We had what we call haystacks, which are the rice or chips with all the toppings on it. But the haystack cookies are also really good, and we're going to have those next week. And so you'll get to try those as well at one of the other sessions. I think it's next Thursday. And so we're going to talk about those things next week and some more ways of dealing with stress. So tonight you have some handouts on your tables, and Let's see, you have one on carbohydrates. You also have one on reducing your sugar intake. So you might like to look at those, and we're going to have our discussions at this time. Thank you so much for coming.